So today I had to watch two videos. They were very interesting. One was, they were both TED Talks, and one was from Mr. Hans, and it was about a washing machine. At first I thought, oh wow, he's going to ramble on about washing machines. But I was able to find out that there are only 2 billion people in the world that are able to have washing machines. And for me, being an American, it's hard not to have or think of a washing machine. I've always had a washing machine. I've never had to wash my clothes in a creek or in a bucket or in a bathtub. And he talked about how over the next few years, once we're able to help those countries get out of poverty, that they'll be at the use of wanting to be able to use power and electricity. There are billions of people in the world that don't have power or electricity, and it's hard to believe and for me to comprehend because I've always had electricity. It's just something that everybody has. I've never been to a third world country. And it's really interesting to think how I would live my life if I didn't have all the necessities that I do. I really thought it was amazing how he made the story of his grandmother and his mother always wanting a washing machine so important, and how he was able to tell the story how they always had to wash their clothes in a creek or a tin, and then they had to heat the water to use the washing machine, or to wash not the washing machine, but to wash their clothes by hand. It really makes me think how much I take things for granted, especially the washing machine, having hot water, just the basic things we have here in America that are basic for us, but in other countries they're extreme luxuries. And then a really important, her name was Shailene, and she gave a talk about the use of education and empowering women. She gave many stories about how women in the world are degraded, abused, trafficked, and how we as men just treat them as if they were a candy bar, like they're nothing. And she gave some really surprising statistics for me. She did an exercise, and she had everyone raise their hand of who thought, if there's more women in the world, raise your hand, and if you think there's more men in the world, raise your hand. And I put my hand up because I thought there was more men in the world. And wait, I didn't. I raised my hand because I thought there were more women in the world, and she said that was wrong. She said there are more men in the world. And she gave some statistics about the country, India. And from about birth to about age 1 or age 2, the mortality rate is pretty much the same. But as soon as a child stops receiving nutrients from the mother's breast, they start getting sick, they start dying. And it was very interesting. In India, 1 in 5 women die because they are thought of less than. So 50% more girls die in India than boys do from ages 1 to 5, and I was really, really surprised by that. And she also talked about how in other countries education is not very important, at least for women. She gave many stories, one about a girl whose family received a goat, and they were able to finally save up enough money to send their daughter to school. She wasn't able to go to school till she was 9 years old, and she excelled in school all the way until she graduated. And she did so well that she was able to receive a scholarship to come to school here in America, and I thought that was really cool. And now she has money for her family. She can support them. They live a much higher life than if they didn't send their daughter to school. And for me, and I think for our culture, it's kind of hard to realize how much education truly can change the world and how it can truly change individual lives. We like to think of things as a large scale, at least I do anyways, and it's hard to understand each individual person. But if you break it down into each individual person, great progress and change can be made. She also talked about how in our countries, like the developed countries, how we continually progress. If something doesn't work, we make it work. And in other countries that aren't developed, that aren't educated, if the chicken coop didn't work, if all the chickens died in it last year, they aren't going to fix it, and they aren't going to use that idea because it killed it all last time, and so there's no point in even trying to perfect it. But here in America, if that didn't work, we would find a solution to the problem. We would say, oh, maybe it's because they left the door open, so that's why animals were able to get in there and kill the chickens. Or they left the door open and all the chickens left and disappeared. It's simple things like that and simple thinking that we all take for granted, and it's something that I take for granted. And the last thing that she discussed was how a USAID worker was working in Darfur and saw horrible things, something that someone should never see in their life. And she was home at Christmas time, and she was looking outside and noticed something, and it made her get super emotional. And she wasn't emotional the entire time she was in Darfur. And it was a simple birdhouse. And she said, in developed countries, we are so good at protecting ourselves and providing for ourselves that we're able to provide and protect for not a mindless, but like a simple bird. And when you think about it, in developed countries, how we take care of our animals, and they live inside, and we spend lots of money on our animals as if they were humans. And in a developed country, they can't do that. They wouldn't even think of doing that. They have to think about providing for themselves and having enough food to feed themselves. And it's amazing how just having somewhere to live, somewhere with walls, we take for granted, and how taking a simple bird feeder for granted, that we can provide for the people in the world. It's just there are greedy men and other things, and sometimes people don't think that donating money or offering their services as a missionary or going out and volunteering really do help, but they really do help because it helps if it just helps one person break out of that cycle of violence and poverty, and break into the cycle of virtues and righteousness and everything that's good, they'll be able to get not only themselves out, but help their families as well. And that's something that I think here in America we don't do. We are very kind of self-centered, and we really think about ourselves. And we don't help our families, at least not my family. We're all very independent, and we're on our own. And I wish they would help. But I can't change that. So back to the talk that she gave about gender equality. There are millions of women that are discriminated against, and children that are sex trafficked all over the world. It's something that we don't see here in America, and since we don't see it, it doesn't exist. And we need to change that. And I really enjoyed these videos Have a great day. Bye.